Hello and welcome to the second full-length episode of Tour Talk. This time we were joined by Dan Pugsley, who is the bass player for the band Skindred. We covered a whole host of ground in this episode, from trekking through the states searching for cowboy and alien type shit, and subsequently having to hightail it home because of COVID, through to being in Vegas for St. Patrick's Day with an Irish tour manager and other weird Vegas touring experiences. Nate helps Dan unearth some deeply buried and long-forgotten war stories from surviving Warped Tour back in the early 2000s in the States. And we get Dan's take on songwriting, Dolly Parton, and Nigerian house music. And finally, we get into the technical sides of being a touring bass player and the best/cheapest ways to get your sound around the world. Oh, and there's some top tips for how to maintain a glorious beard whilst out on the road. As always, you can check us out on the socials at Tour Talk Pod on Instagram and Tour Talk Pod on YouTube. Enjoy the show.
See you.
Hello.
Hey.
I can't believe that's your background. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It's
fucking amazing.
I'm just waiting for Lenny and Carl. We're gonna have a well-deserved drink.
I feel like we're gonna get like a prank phone call from Bart halfway through, like asking for Seymour Butts or something. This is great.
Yeah.
Hey Dan, how awesome is this that you did video lessons all day and now you're doing a fucking Zoom, Zoom Skype for
we were just talking
money.
about that. It's funny how it's ended up. This is somehow my life at the moment, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was, I'm recording this on my phone in front of me right now, so it's probably a better quality thing. But unfortunately, we're not going to have Mo's behind me. You're going to get my girlfriend's spare room.
That's all right.
How are you, mate?
Oh man. It's the same. It's fucking crazy. I've never experienced anything like this in the sense that the time for me is flying. It feels like tour.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know if everyone's feeling this way, but I wake up, I do my morning routine, whatever. I do my stuff that I have to do during the day for my writing routine. And then I look up and it's like 4 or 5 o'clock. And the fucking sun's coming down every day.
Yeah. The days are shorter as well, right? So
it's crazy, man.
It's just creeping in.
Yeah. It's zooming by. I mean, I feel like at one point, maybe in March and April, it felt like it was dragging. And then the summer just went and the fall just went. And it just like, it's on fast. Maybe I'm mentally fast forwarding too. I don't know if that's like part of it. I'm just trying to get life the fuck over with until the next summer starts up and we can do shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like usually I go on tour, I come home from tour, and for 2 weeks I'm really happy at the pace that everything's moving slow and you can breathe. Mm-hmm. And then the next 2 or 3 weeks after you've gotten settled in, you're fucking ready. You're like, I got to go on tour again. Like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
And now, is this the first time in years that you've been home, like, for an extended period? Because it is for me.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
yeah, I can't even imagine for you, right? I mean, this is like, what? I mean, I don't even know where to begin.
I mean, it's different, and in some ways, it's been really. In some way, obviously, the state of the world and everything's not great, and everything that's happening. But it's somewhat. I'm looking for a silver lining in it, and it's been great to just have a little moment, a little pause.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel bad talking about it with a lot of people because for me, this has been the most everything really lined up for me personally. I mean, the 2 years before the pandemic, my band, which I toured with Lion Eyes for like 18 years, had really started to kind of come undone and crumble, and I was feeling it happen in real time. And then right in November before the pandemic, we went to Japan. The tour was great. And then literally the day we got home from Japan, the whole thing just imploded. And so December, January, I was really like lost. And then I started writing and figured out I was going to have my own thing. And then the pandemic hit, and it actually gave me a minute to figure out what that thing was.
Yeah. So when did you go to Japan?
November 2019, November 20th to maybe November 15th, 14th, 15th to the end of the month.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what? Because did you know that I was in America when I was in America in March when everything started to lock down?
No, tell us about that. No, I had no clue.
Okay, so me.
Do you want to save it till we start?
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
we've started. No, fuck that. We're going. We're rolling.
I'm easy. I'm recording. You recording? I'm prepared.
This is Dan. This is this is Dario. I'm Nate. This is Dan. This is Tour Talk.
So
let's do it. Fuck it.
Me and a couple of buddies were like, around this time last year, we were saying, wouldn't it be cool if we just like another buddy? Have you heard of a band Turbo Wolf?
Yeah, of course.
Right, Turbo Wolf. So Andy,
they're great.
Yeah, they're awesome. The guitar player is a good friend of mine, and he lives round the corner from my house. Like literally, like we're like neighbours, and we both turned 40 this year, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool because we've both been on tour a ton, like to go to America and not have an agenda, and then to go to all the places like, the idea was to rent an RV in California.
Love it.
Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico,
all the beautiful outdoor,
so
Zion
like,
National Park and all that
Zion,
stuff.
I've took edibles and walked around Zion National Park.
God, I'm in love with. Sorry, Dario, I'm in love with Dan. I literally am in love with him. We are spirit animals.
Yeah, so we really sensibly planned it all out, and but it wasn't really sensible because we hadn't all this stuff started to happen, and we were like, oh, maybe it's gonna get a bit weird. We were like, oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Like we all came home early, like we came home at different times. It was totally cool because we were all looking out for each other, but it just started to get really weird because we were having a great time. Like we were basically going on hikes. We were looking for alien shit, cowboy shit, and like nature, and it was just getting like weirder and weirder because we were like, oh, we went to Flagstaff and we were like, oh, this would be great, because I've been to Flagstaff a bunch of times. Kind of weird. It's got some cool weird
it's
stuff
weird
about
anyway. It's a weird place anyway.
Exactly. So I was just like, oh, this would be cool, and like everything was shut.
Oh wow.
Like, everything was shut. So we were just. It was increasingly getting like weirder and weirder, and so we didn't fully do. We've said like we want to try and do it properly, like at some point.
When did you like figure out that you were going to have to come home? Like during that?
I think the original trip was like meant to be 2 weeks, and we were coming home the 26th. So we were coming home the day of my birthday, the 27th. But I think I ended up staying for 10 days, and then the other guys, I was just like, it was getting a bit weird, and I had got some family stuff going on, and I was just like, I kind of need to get back. But it was all a good vibe. But we were all like, because really good friends. It was me, Andy, and another mate who works in kind of the service industry kind of thing, but he's like a manager. So it was crazy. I mean, he lost a job and then got a new job while we were out there, like because stuff started to happen so fast, and everything got locked down in the UK while we were still there. And we, that whole thing where they were like, the borders are shut to Europeans, and then it was like, does that include the UK? And we got into America the day, like at midnight that day, they wouldn't have let us in. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but how did you feel? Because like, did you really understand? Because me and Nate were in Manchester at the time, and Nate kind of had a similar experience about trying to figure out
we were having the opposite experience.
Home. Yeah, and it just felt like there wasn't enough information to judge when to go home or how to go home, or whether it was safe to leave, or whether borders were shut. I mean, was it the same in the States, like coming back the other way? Yeah,
I mean, we were just getting more and more. I mean, I don't know if you guys, I'm experiencing Las Vegas in full flight. You know what that's like when it's like crazy. I had the best time in Vegas I've ever had. It was just because the other guys had never really been there, and I was like,
crazy.
Do you remember the Hunteridge Theatre? Yeah, do you know what I'm talking about? like
I don't.
years ago, the Hunteridge Theatre.
In
It was
Vegas?
a weird. It was a in Vegas. Yeah, it was a weird little theatre that shut maybe 2000. We played it in 2003 or 4,
Okay.
and it shut not long
Yeah.
after that. Like we've been playing in Vegas since then, and we do like supporting different bands at Mandalay Bay. You know, the House of Blues and
The House of
Yeah,
Blues. That's the
yeah.
only place that I've played it in Vegas is actually
Yeah.
the House of Blues a couple times.
yeah. That so there, and so I knew. Like, I've got my little routine when I go to Vegas. I knew, like, I'll go here, and this is the cool stuff. Like, I'm not into gambling. I'm not into like any of that stuff. But there's some cool stuff. Like, if you just want to walk around, and I was just like, let's get a giant margarita and just walk the strip, you know.
Ticket, yeah.
And I had the best time in Vegas I've ever had because there
It's
was like
amazing.
nobody there. There was like nobody there.
I always thought that like I'd hate Vegas. I just thought it would be a place that I just wouldn't like. But I realized really quickly that like no matter what you're into, it's in Vegas. Like whoever you are, you can have a great time there.
Yeah, there's
It's
punk rock bars. There's fruity, insane fist pumpy bars. There's like
Yeah.
you know, food. Like it's like food haven. If you're into that. Not so good for vegan food, but pretty much everything else that you'd want.
Yeah. I'm actually a big fan of the old Vegas. We've always had friends in Vegas that were like lived in Vegas for years. So they would take us like to the Griffin. They call it the Griff. It's like it's on the old strip, and it's just where you see people that have like lived through the 60s and 70s in Vegas, and they're just completely emotionally destroyed. Chain smoking cigarettes with green indoor sunglasses.
you know,
and oxygen tanks.
Is that Fremont Street?
It is
Correct. Fremont.
I've got I was on Fremont Street. My band was playing with Gogol Bordello, and Paul Clegg was tour managing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so me and Paul on St Patrick's Day walked along Fremont Street.
God.
And it was just green beer everywhere, like
Crazy.
crazy, like funny.
Maybe now's a good time to tell everybody to introduce yourself, Dan.
Yeah.
Now that we know you've been searching for aliens and walking down Fremont,
Yeah.
it would be good to know who you are and what you do.
Well, okay. I'm Dan Pugsley, and for a long time I played bass in Skindred, and continue to. What else do I do? That's about it, really. Honestly, at the moment I'm a teacher. At the moment I'm teaching. What else? And weirdo vegan bass player, hippie person.
So you're right. You're right at home on this in this group. This is great.
Yeah, last time last time we were on Fremont Street, we had this really bizarre tour. Like an agent brought us over to America. Like, and we hadn't toured over there in ages, and for a while, like, we had loads going on. We did Conan, we did loads of stuff. I mean, we had loads of stuff going on, but it was like about 4 years ago, and we went over, and Head PE.
Yeah.
Like,
Of course.
So those guys supported us. So I was just like, oh wow, like,
Oh wow.
this, I don't know anything about what's going on. I mean, I'd spoken to a lot of American friends, and they were like, just for the time being, don't bother coming to America because it's so hard. It's so hard to tour, so hard to get it going. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, okay. And but we ended up doing it, and we had the weirdest experience in Vegas because our show, I think, Head PE had some kind of connection to. They released a record on Suburban Noise, which is like a juggalo thing.
Yeah.
So they'd adopted, like, Head PE have always done their own thing, but then they kind of got all these kind of like juggalo fans. So we ended up, and there was a juggalo, like, Twisted. Do you know who Twisted are?
Yeah,
Like,
with the Z.
Yeah,
Twisted.
They were playing a show in the same night in Vegas, and I don't think our show and I don't think their show sold very well. so they combined them. So they combined the show. So it was like our opening band, a Juggalo band, Head PE, a Juggalo band, us, Twisted, and it was bizarre. There was this one moment, you know, the Fremont Street Experience. You know, they've got clowns and jugglers and all that kind of stuff. I had this moment of like packing down my gear in this corridor, and there was a door that said Fremont Street Experience, and Twisted were in the corridor. They're about to go on stage, and they were like really lovely people. You know, they were doing the thing, and like, but they were in the corridor, and this door opened, and a clown came out from the Fremont Street Experience, and he like looked at Twisted to be like, who are these clowns? You know, like, who are these guys? Like, who like, these clowns are on my turf.
It's like the meme of the Spider-Mans pointing, the same as the Spider-Man twins pointing to each other, and they don't know who's the real Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
I've done LSD on Fremont Street. I would like just to point that out, and it doesn't feel like you're on drugs when you're there, because it's so insane.
I just think it would be just too much stimulus for me.
Yeah. I thought it was hell. I thought it was where you go to hell. When I remember distinctly having the feeling that when you die, if you go to hell, this is where you go. You know, there's like people fly. There's the zip line going over you.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was on Warp Tour 2014, and fucking the whole experience was just brutal and tough.
Was that you did that with Lion Eyes?
Yeah.
Was that the only Warp Tour you did, or had
That's
you done
the second one. We did it in 2011. I feel like a survivor of when people talk about doing tours in Afghanistan. I feel like that. It's like, I did.
Not to oversell it at all.
Yeah, not to oversell it. But musicians do talk about it like that. When you talk to other people that have done Warped Tour, they're like, you did 2 tours. I was there in 11 and 14, and I saw some shit, man. I saw some shit.
I was there 05. We did 05.
Wow.
Yeah. We did it in like, it was really one of those things where we did it. I don't think Kevin, the guy that ran it, didn't really want us on the tour, like, because he didn't really get it. Initially, didn't really get it, and we were on the same record label as Simple Plan. And when the shows went to Canada, they wanted Simple Plan on, so they kind of persuaded him, if you want Simple Plan, have Skindred on, and then you can, which was great for us. And then I think they saw that we were doing it in a van and doing everything ourselves and all of that, and then they got behind it, and it was actually really good. But yeah,
you did it in a van.
Yeah,
Jesus fucking Christ.
So like we did it like all these bands, like I think my ethic's always been pretty punk rock, but from the outside, people go, "Oh, it's just this showy metal band," And we had all these other like kind of like punk bands talking about, and there were some British bands, some people that I know, like, and I've seen the interviews, them going, "Oh, it's so hard doing it," and all this. I was like, okay, like when I'm not sleeping.
I can't even imagine.
And I'm doing everything myself. I'm postering my show, in the morning, setting up the merch, postering the shows before they happen, like all of that. But it was really fun when I think about that, retrospectively. And it was a really weird one as well. Like, really, like our stage, we were playing like the second stages. So it was like really brutal bands like Bleeding Through. But then like us. And then like Gogol Bordello, but then like Dillinger Escape Plan, but then like Dead 60s, if you know those guys, British bands, Dead 60s, kind of like, bunch of stuff. So it was like a real mix. Funeral for a Friend did it that year, which are another British band. Trying to think who else. Bedouin Soundclash.
Wow.
You know those guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting because the first year that we did it, it was like Lucero, the Agrolites,
awesome.
Big D and the Kids Table, Foxy Shazam,
Amazing.
Less Than Jake, Bad Religion. It felt like there was other adults on the Street Dogs.
Yeah.
It felt like this really like visceral punk rock. Everybody had the commonality of loving like the Bad Brains and Motown. So there was this commonality between the bands. And then by 2014, when we went to do it again, it was literally just like, I call them boy bands. I mean, just like
haircut bands.
The shit of all shit. They don't.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember one time in 2014, a guy. I won't say who he is or what band he was in. Huge band, a band that sells out amphitheaters, in that world. And I remember I watched him play to 30,000 people on the main stage, and then he was around our set, and he came up and he goes, "Man, that's just like, you have a great guitar tone, dude. How do you get that tone?" And I just like looked at him and I was like, it's a Marshall. I just turn it all the way up.
Yeah.
I don't have a pet. There's no like, he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "You just go over to the amp and you turn it up. It's got knobs on it and you dime them all, and then you turn the volume on your guitar up or down depending on how much distort." And it like, I watched this guy's mind melt, and I was like, "This is we are not friends. There's nothing this is not gonna work out between the two of us."
You move some air. That's what we did.
And trousers as a result.
Yeah. When we did it, I think the headliners were The Offspring,
Amazing.
Fall Out Boy, Avenged Sevenfold, MXPX,
Wow.
and a couple of some cool bands, like some bands that I like. You know, there were a lot of bands that I like, but overwhelmingly it was a lot of bands that are like this. You know, the fringe kind of bands.
That's sick stuff.
Yeah, a lot of those kind of guys. So yeah, it was kind of we felt very weird on that. Oh, some great bands. Valiant Thor were on that tour. We're on our stage.
Toured with those guys. Great band.
Yeah, great band.
Very entertaining band.
Yeah. Trying to think who else. Yeah, but it was. I mean, even then I was only like 24 or something, but I felt like ancient.
Was CKY on that tour with you?
They weren't on that one. But I'll tell you what, who were on it was a mad one. Paramore.
Wow.
Were playing on the back of a truck. This band, Shira Girl. Do you know this punk rock
Shira
band?
Girl.
Shira Girl.
They were still doing it.
They do
were
it
still
every
doing
year.
it into the.
So they were Paramore were on the Shira Girl stage.
Crazy.
Someone was like, "You got to see this band. Like the singer's like crazy good." And legit, I mean, give it up to her. She was amazing. And then she was probably only like 16, 17 at the time, just like belting it. Like so
And
cool.
you were 24?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I was 27 and felt ancient. Sorry, go ahead, Dario.
Yeah. So, if it's that, like, driving the van, doing all the work, what is it that makes it fun? Where do you get the joy? Where's the joy coming from?
Yeah.
Just for people to understand it.
So, it's kind of like what Nate said about the war stories thing. Like, you look back and you're like, I got through that. And that's kind of... Parts of it were really fun. Parts of it were like checking out loads of bands. Just getting to play every day and all that. But, I mean, you accept you're on Warped Tour, you're going to be soaking wet all the time. Because you're just not going to be in air conditioning. Yep. You're going to be, traveling all the time, like hard work. But I think I kind of look like back at it like I served, like it is a bit.
Yes, you did your tour.
Yeah, I did my
tour of duty.
Yeah.
Have you got friends from those shows that like you toured with then that you still work with now, or like even whether it be techs or people who helped you out then?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's like people. I made some links back then. Where still I'm like friendly with a lot of people that I did that tour with.
Amazing.
Because you all survived it together, or?
Yeah, a bit of that. A bit of just kind of... I remember meeting briefly Stu Brooks, the bass player of Dub Trio.
Yeah.
And we ended up like taking them out in the UK probably 2008 or 9.
That is an incredible pairing. I mean, I couldn't think of a better bill. Literally.
Yeah, that was... I was with those guys, early MySpace. They messaged us and said, hey, with this band and like blah blah blah, blah. And I was in New York, and Other Records. Do you know that
Sure.
record store? Other Records, yeah.
Sure.
I was in there, and I just saw the MySpace, and I saw their record, and I was like, I'm totally gonna buy it. And the first one was like
with the 3 cats on it.
no, that's Another Sound Is Dying. Like two
That's-
albums,
okay.
2 albums before that. I think.
Oh, wow, okay.
It was that one sounded like Mogwai, but then dub.
Yeah.
Right, it was really dub before they started to get heavy, and then A New Heavy was the one after that they toured
Okay.
with us on, and then I think the one with the 3 cats. Yeah, I mean those, like meeting some of those guys. Then trying to think what else. Like yeah, there was just tons of bands and tons of crew. I mean, you know what it's like touring. Like people share crew, and they're like,
Yep.
"Oh, you did that. Oh, you did that." So there was a guy who's like he's a tech for Death from Above 1975 and for Duran Duran and for a bunch of other stuff. And
Okay.
he I've forgotten. I think he was with MXPX, and he
Okay.
used to watch us like every day, kind of thing. So he's like Bernie's still that guy. Like a lot of techs. We didn't, to be honest, we just didn't get to hang around with a lot of bands that weren't
Yeah,
on
you're
our stage.
you're doing 14-hour overnight drives. I mean, that's what the respect that I have for you doing that tour in a van. It's a respect that I have for very few. I mean, I would lay out my levels of respect like this. If you've only ever toured in a bus, like your first tours in a bus,
Yeah.
I have very little respect for you. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care how great your songs are. As a musician to another musician, the respect level is very small. If you've done Warped Tour in a van, you are a bad motherfucker. I don't care who you are. Because at the beginning of the tour, halfway through the tour, the 2 years I did it, they would be like, yeah, somebody flipped their van last night on an overnight drive from Idaho to Albuquerque, and everyone everyone died.
Yeah.
All right, so lunchtime's going to be in this tent. Like that was like a regular thing. They'd be like, somebody flipped their, people would fall asleep on those drives. It was literally in a bus. It was one of the physically most demanding, hardest tours I've ever had to do on a bus. In a van, man, you are my hero.
Well, I mean, I think thinking back to it, like, did we get? I think there was some talk of sharing, and then it just didn't happen, and then we were like, "Fuck it, let's just do it." We didn't know. I don't think if we'd have known, we would have done it. But it would be like, "Oh, you're driving. Oh, the drive's 7 hours today." It'd be like, "Yes,
Right.
7 hours,
Right,
yes."
right.
Because it was like all the other drives were like you said, 15 hours. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah.
That's my favorite part about coming to the UK.
I don't think we
I
were
was
bad
gonna
motherfuckers. I think we were just stupid motherfuckers.
No, you're bad.
Well,
but
this-
it's a fine line.
Yeah.
Was this like your first tour in the States, like having played shows in the UK where everything's like a 2-3 hour drive max, then going over there
Yeah.
and thinking, oh yeah, we can drive it, like it's fine, and then
We
oh shit,
we
no,
had
it's-
we had toured in America a lot before, but
Okay.
but yeah, the difference as well of like you have to get to Warped Tour early, like the shows
You have to get there by 10 a.m. when they release the schedule, or you're not gonna.
Yeah.
You're not gonna play that day.
You got to be there 8 o'clock in the morning, otherwise you're not going to get but earlier. Otherwise, your merch tent is going to be in some ridiculous. It's going to be the other side of the
Yeah,
the
it's
thing. So
crazy.
because everybody just like bags these. Oh, I'm setting up here. I'm setting up there. So yeah.
It's a free for all.
Do you know what? I've not thought about Warped Tour in a long time.
Look at that.
Thanks for bringing PTSD.
Yeah. Your eyes starting to twitch. I could tell. I was just thinking about that. So Dario has worked in basically as a musician, and then also in every other aspect of the industry, and we know each other from working together for Lion Eye shows, just like helping us rent a van, renting his van, helping us do production for shows, helping us book shows, and I remember the first time that we were in a van together, and Dario was like, all right, boy. Like, he's like, all right, boys, listen, we got a long one tomorrow. I need you guys in the lobby at 9 a.m. And we're like, what are we talking? 6, 7, 8 hours. I mean, I spent 10 years living like you did on Warped Tour. Lion and I spent 10 years living in a van, and when I say living in, I mean no hotels, sleeping in a fucking van every night, driving 8 or 9 hours, 10 hours. That was nothing. So the first time we toured with Dario, and he's like, "All right, tomorrow, big show. Get down to the lobby at the Travelodge at 9 a.m. We're out." And I'm like, "What's the drive? 7, 8 hours?" He's like, "No, 2.5. It's gonna be a long one."
Right.
Hey man, I've driven from Switzerland back to Manchester. I know what a long drive is, but like I'm also doing my first
UK.
I'm doing my first little run with you and being like, I need to get these fuckers out of bed. Like I don't trust these stoner idiots at all to be anywhere on time.
You know, like when you see people like tour in the UK and they have a bus and get hotels, like I'm like, that's crazy. It is madness. But I'm like, when we tour in the UK, I am first to bed, right? I'm first to bed. I wake up in the morning. I do my thing in the morning. I walk somewhere and get coffee.
Yeah.
I might go to the gym. I might do something like that. And then I'm sorted. But I mean, I literally walk off stage, have a shower and put my pajamas on. Like, I'm just like... I
love that.
I'm just, you know, I've done my drinking. I've done all that.
So this is when you're on a bus in the UK?
Uh-huh.
Or just
because the drives are so short.
Yeah. But do you not like go to bed and then the drive starts, but then... Because some people struggle going to sleep when the bus isn't moving, but then people wake up when the bus stops moving. So like, I don't know how it is for you sleeping on a bus or...
Just herbal supplements. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm all right.
I was going to say, with a 2.5 hour drive in the van in the UK, that usually means we can stop to smoke weed out of an apple like 6 times before we have to get to the place. And we're still there an hour early.
Right. Like, when was the last time you toured in the UK then? Because you said you were in Manchester.
Opposite from you. So you were in the States in that point in March. I had flown over to Manchester. We prepped my first solo acoustic tour, opening up for Dan Reed and Danny Vaughan. They have a group called Snake Oil and Harmony, which is acoustic duo. Right. And I really wanted to rediscover, speaking of touring in a van, I wanted to get back to what it means to really tour. So I rented a thing called a Bumblebee. Shout out to Bumblebee Campers in Manchester, and it's literally a 1992 Toyota minivan with a fold down bed in the minivan.
Right.
And I rented that, and I had
Was it
planned...
just you and Dario?
No, just me.
Just
you? Oh,
I went to Sweden for 3 shows. This is going to get really depressing. I went to Sweden. I came to Manchester. We warmed up. I got ready to do this. I went to Sweden for 3 shows. The shows were incredible. Landed back in Manchester maybe on the 9th or 10th. And then on the 10th, I got a phone call that my manager of 6-7 years had passed away unexpectedly. No, I'm not trying to depress everyone. I mean, it's part of the story. And then on my drive to London to play the first show of this fucking acoustic tour, that I'm like, this is going great, and I finally understand what it means to just have an acoustic guitar in a van, and I'm sleeping by myself in rest areas, and I'm just doing this. And then the whole thing got canceled. And then I experienced the same thing you did, in the sense that, like, the U.S. government, just because Donald Trump's just literally one of the stupidest human beings that's ever walked the face of the earth. Actually, he's one of the greatest con men ever, so he can't be that stupid. But on the State Department travel website, they literally, instead of posting what the rules were, they just posted a transcript of his speech about shutting down the borders. So there was no actual direction. So we were stuck for like a week, just like, what the fuck do I do? And then it got even worse, because we were seeing footage of the airports back home, like the airports that I would fly back into, flooded. People just flooded into the airports, and I'm like, everyone there is getting COVID. There's no, I'm just not going to come home.
Yeah.
It was that, and at the same time, the government here was making no decisions. They were
it was business as usual.
No, they were just, but it wasn't, because basically, like, all the artists were making the decisions themselves to pull shows, because they were worried about people's safety and whether people would actually want to attend. And the government was just like, oh no, you can still do whatever you want. So we were like trying to find a way for you to still try and maybe play some shows if people wanted to come, and then they were getting cancelled on the day, and we were rerouting stuff. Or like, it was a total
Madness.
mess of like
It was absolute madness.
Trying to keep you busy, trying to keep your head above water. Like this whole tour's been cancelled, and therefore your fee that goes with it was out the window. You thought you were stuck here because Donald had said all the borders were closed, and then you wouldn't even really want to go home because they were supposed to be like screening people on the way in, and then I mean when you went home, you videoed it of what it was actually like going through security,
crazy,
and nobody
dude.
was checking anything. Nobody was taking temperatures.
They were
nobody
like,
was
"Do
doing
you
shit.
feel sick? Do you feel sick?" And I was like, "No. I mean, physically, no. I feel great."
Yeah.
And they were like, "All right, have at it. Go home." It was crazy.
Did you fly direct back to DC?
Yeah, I went from I always fly Aer Lingus. I don't know why I love that airline. So I always fly from Dublin because also in Dublin, you can do your American screening in Dublin.
Oh,
so
so
when you
you
get
can
home,
just-
you're done. Yeah, which is
That's awesome. That is awesome. So tell me,
Yeah.
Nate Bergman, 2020, doing the writing thing, like why did you just suddenly go, right, I'm writing, and
Since
now
I've been home.
yeah.
Yeah. Right before I left, I basically had written tantamount to like 9 or 10 songs. In the studio, I played every instrument myself. So for those of you who don't know, I've put together a solo record right now, which is my debut solo album, and Dan, graciously enough, played bass on one of the tracks, and it's fucking amazing. Thank you for that. So since I got this, maybe the week or after I got home, I was just like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, fuck it, let's just write more. So I ended up writing another 15 songs. I was sitting on 20, 25 songs, and we just took the best of those, and I was like, let's just figure out how to make this an album. So I started working with Paul around the same time, and he was like, I think I know some people that would maybe want to play some stuff on this.
Just a quick tangent. Have you got a Paul Clegg impression yet? Or do you know
no.
Dario? Do you know Paul?
Yeah, I know Paul. I've booked a lot of buses through Paul. So
Yeah, right. Okay,
yes.
so it's like
Do you have a good one?
Dude, I'm not. Dude, seriously, dude.
he gets really quiet. Like
Seriously, dude. I'm telling you some information.
Yeah.
it's just like everyone's got a Paul Clegg. Like everyone's got a Paul Clegg impression.
I've known Paul a long time through the Clutch guys.
Clutch
I've known
connection.
him for about maybe 12 years, 13 years. I've known him for a long time. And he's always been one of the few people backstage in any scenario that's like remotely enjoyable to talk to. You know what I mean? Because he's an actual person.
Yeah,
he's not like but he's never scanning the room. He's
Oh,
never
no.
scanning the
He
room to
doesn't-
talk to someone. He doesn't give a
he's-
fuck.
He doesn't care. He's as much as he's interested in, like he's a music fan. He is a music fan.
Oh,
and he doesn't-
100%.
He
And
is,
he's not
I would
like
say
it's
that.
still like he posted his Spotify thing, and it was like like Cat Power's in it. Yeah, like still Mark Lanigan is in it. You know, it's like all
Exactly.
that's him. Like he just likes what he likes. I mean, he's a character. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
that. I
no.
just wanted-
So I had right before I left for that European tour, I had played a show in DC. I did 2 warm-up shows, one in DC, one in Baltimore, just to kind of get my bearings. I've never played a solo acoustic show in my whole life, and leading up to the tour, I was kind of going to open mic nights, which I had also never done. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
waiting for 6 hours for 5 minutes on stage to play one song, and I ended up really falling in love with the process of it. And the last show before I left, Neil Fallon from Clutch and his wife and child, and Paul Clegg just happened to be in town with his wife and kid, and they came to see me do the show in DC. And when I got back from the canceled European tour, I kind of said to Paul, I was like, Paul, I mean, the guy who was managing me passed away, and I need a manager because I think I have some songs here. Like, what do you do? And the first conversation was basically like, I can't take this on. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I just don't. And then literally the next day, we were just in a phone call about what the next step for the record was. He just decided to manage me and didn't tell me.
It's really great. He really believes in you, which is awesome.
That's a good. That's a good and new feeling for me.
And you know, I think he just decided after like the accident and everything that he was just like he just got rid of everything stressful that he could out of his life. So like you and Thursday and some other stuff he like loves doing. He loves it. So
originally for the song that he sent you, I played all the instruments on it. So I was playing the bass, I was playing everything, and he said, I think we need better bass on this song. And I go, oh, I'm open to ideas. And he goes, I got a buddy in the UK. He plays with Skindred, and he's done a lot of work with Badly Drawn Boy. I mean, he's done a lot of musical direction, and he's a great bass player, and he loves the Bad Brains. And I looked at Paul, and without hesitation, I said, sold. Maybe it's the worst bass line I've ever heard, but the credentials are correct, and it's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I loved it. Like when it came through, I said to a couple of people, it was just like I've come to this point in stuff that I'm doing is it's kind of like when I did the Badly Drawn Boy stuff. I was like, retrospectively, I was kind of like, that's some of the best stuff that I've ever done, really. And I don't know if it's because I'm an adult now. I don't know if it's like what it is, but it just all kind of like aligned, and it was just a really good time. So like having the opportunity to do that and writing, being in a band, you know what it's like being in a band. Who'd be in a band now? Like
we had this conversation.
We had this conversation. Like I'm still in about just. We about just in had a band,
this conversation.
But it's like doing something different is so like for me to play like not just kind of riffy stuff, to kind of play how I play and like all that. It was great. I mean, everything about it I really really loved. So thank you for letting me be a part of that.
Oh,
sincerely.
come on. Thanks for putting up with my bullshit. What's your so let me ask you a question. What's your rule? What's your thing? Like for instance, and Dario could answer this too. My rule is a song has to be a great song, and then it's everything else is peripheral to that. If the song is not great, you could show me you could show me a Bad Brains tune. You could play for me Sailing On. Then you could play for me a Hank Williams tune. Mm-hmm. And then you could play me John Coltrane. Okay? And it's got to be a great song. Mm-hmm. I don't care where it comes from. That's my rule, right? Yeah. So to like participate in something, I feel like the songwriting has to be great. What's your thing? What's your rule?
Yeah, I think songwriting, like I guess it's like a more hippie way of looking at it. Just the vibe has to be right in it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like
you look at like, your references there, like the Hank Williams thing, or like you listen to Son House, just clapping, singing, like that's amazing to me. Is that a representation of a song in that way? Like. So I'm pretty open, I'm pretty open to that stuff. And as well, I love growing up, like I love hip hop and I love sample culture. So things like, I'm a bit more like abstract in what I think, rather than just saying the song, because the song is king, but it's kind of the vibe of it. Like if you say the
cool.
Coltrane thing is a good idea, a good representation of that as well, because it's not necessarily a vocal. Mm-hmm. It's a head,
sure.
A lead,
sure. Yeah,
a lead thing. So like, if there's something there to grab, I bet there's something in everything for me.
Sure, that's amazing. That's a great viewpoint.
So I'm, yeah, the vibe of it. Like I'm very much like I've never been like a lyrics person myself when I'm writing. Like I get inspiration. Okay. Like I have folders on my phone of like notes of like inspirational titles and things like that, but they're never like lyrics. They're kind of like a conceptual kind of jumping off point for something,
right?
For me, okay. And then I get a vibe for something.
You're a vibe guy, and I think that's massive. When I first heard the track that you sent back with the bass line on it, it was very hip hop.
Yeah,
very hip hop inspired, and I that for me that's right. I grew up on like '90s golden era hip hop. I'm a
93.
huge Biggie Smalls fan. Yeah, exactly.
93.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Dario, for like you, what's your perspective? Because you're a guitar player, so you're coming from quite a different place.
For me, I mean, it's funny the little notes thing where you've got just different inspirational lyrics, because the amount of stupid different songs or little beginnings of riffs or whatever that have got crazy little titles that aren't necessarily going to be the name of the song or anything like that, but that's just a starting point for an idea that you put down, and then it will grow from there. But having those little moments of inspiration that will get you to a song eventually is kind of cool to hear that other people do that. And
big time. Like, so do you write your own music as well then? I see, obviously you got all the guitars there.
Not so much anymore, but I will, just for fun now, I will just, whether it be just parts or whether I'm trying to learn more about a certain style, so I'll sit down and try and do something that's derivative of that, but it'll sound, I'll come up with a silly name around the style or whatever it might be. But I think for what you were saying, Nate, about actual, what is it about? I think you sent me a message being like, I've just wrote something and I don't know whether it's the greatest or worst thing in my life, but it's really poppy.
That happens a couple times a week.
Yeah, but it's super poppy, and I was like, well, it just doesn't matter. It's either a good song or it's not, and like, I think that's just the bottom line with all of it. Like, it's either a good song or it doesn't really matter what you'd pigeonhole it into.
Yeah, I've tried to learn how to get out of my way. I've tried to learn how to get out of my own way in all aspects. And this happens the older I get. I think when I was younger doing this, I would think way more about style and genre and label. Texture. Yeah, just all that. Making it fit into this box. And now I'm just like, is that fun to sing? Does that sound like I'm telling the truth? Does it give you that vibe idea, or does it represent the thing that I'm trying to say? And but that comes back to one thing for me too, always, is like what I'm listening to on tour always seems to affect what I write when I get home. So what are some things that you gravitate to on a tour, or is it totally different every time for you?
Listening wise.
Yeah, like when you're in the bunk.
Do you know what? Don't get into when I'm in the bunk, mate.
That also counts to any media you're ingesting can
any
influence.
Media, no. I know Dario will probably be on this. Do you know Mighty Boosh? Do you know the Mighty Boosh? Right. So when they the whole idea that one character, Noel Fielding's character, like goes through phases. Goes through different phases, and he's in this phase or that phase, and I'm certainly like that kind of thing. So I will be like just listening to like get into like bossa nova, so I'm just listening to a lot of Brazilian music, and then I'll get super into like some German techno thing, and I'll just listen to that for a while. I just go down these deep holes, and like really get into stuff.
Is it like specifically an artist or a song or just a whole...
Sometimes I obsess about a song. Sometimes I'll just listen to one song for a week.
That's funny.
Like if I'm at the moment, what am I listening to? I could probably tell you what I'm listening to at the moment. I mean, I've definitely gone into this. I grew up listening to, Charlie Pride just died, and my mum was a big like Chris Christopherson, Charlie Pride, like country kind of vibe.
The storyteller country guys, yeah. That's
So
massive.
she was like music in the 70s, so like disco and that kind of thing. And so I never got into. I do really like country music, but I never. Oh, this is really weird. I just opened it up, and there's a Dolly Parton advert. I've been listening to Dolly Parton's first 2 records.
Crazy. That's so crazy. I've been on a Dolly Parton kick, very strong, and I have to tell you, I watched the documentary on Netflix, and I just pulled up my Spotify. The record she did in maybe it's 92. It's called "The Grass Is Blue."
Right.
It's a bluegrass record.
Awesome.
It is. It is literally a bass, pedal steel, mandolin, drums, and her, and it is fucking. It's one of the best records I've ever heard. It's insane.
Yeah, I've been listening to those first few Dolly Parton records a lot.
She's a monster.
Yeah, I've been listening to. I do enjoy, as much as I feel a bit robbed by Spotify. I do
I know,
enjoy.
it's a nightmare.
I do enjoy the playlist thing. Like, there's this particular thing on Browse where I found like all these. It's just called Afro, and it's a lot of African electronic music. So there's like Afro bashment and like Nigerian house music and all this, and it's
Crazy.
Kind of like, but it's really cool. But it's genuinely, it's so like pop music is so influenced by this stuff at the moment. So
Drake is heavy. All that Drake stuff is Rihanna is super influenced by it.
Big time.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to a lot of that stuff.
Did you ever get into like the 70s, like Ginger Baker era, like Lagos Nigerian stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Nigerian music a lot. I was just today. Because where I'm teaching at the moment, there was some talk about set lists and the idea of set lists and talking about transitions. And I got these like Fela Kuti recordings up, and how they like never end, like the songs like never end.
Yeah,
and it's just like an example of like the transitions and that. Just a lot of stuff, but still the stuff that I've always listened to, grungy stuff.
So are you just listening to that personally on the bus, or are you like hijacking like the audio system on the bus and like bringing people along with you? Or
I've given up on that.
Oh,
Because
really?
I'm the person that turn off.
Is there a DJ?
Unless I
Is
play
there a DJ in the band that controls that?
The drummer and the guitar player just play 80s music, and it's fun, but after a while it's like Domino's pizza. It's like delicious, and then it's disgusting.
Right. That is correct.
Have you had this band Soul Glow?
No.
Oh, dude.
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now.
I listen to loads of podcasts. Loads and loads of podcasts.
I am a podcast freak. What are your top few podcasts that you're into?
I like Questlove's podcasts.
Fantastic.
That's I like the one with Broken Record with Rick Rubin and
Unbelievable.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's great.
Unbelievable.
I really enjoy. There's a Sopranos one that I'm listening to a lot at the moment. That's come out. It's Steve Sharippa and the actor that plays Christopher.
Oh wow! Okay.
So because Steve Sharippa was Bacala in
Bobby Bacala.
Bobby Bacala, yeah. So those two guys, and they go over every episode, and they have like actors from.
That's so crazy.
It's really cool. They just did. They actually just did. Are you a Sopranos fan?
Massive.
Okay, Pine Barrens. You know that episode?
Yeah, of course.
They just did Pine Barrens, and they interviewed Steve Buscemi because he directed that.
Wow. Yeah.
So
yeah.
he was on the podcast. That was really good. I love. Bobby Lee, Mad TV.
Yeah, Tiger Belly.
Tiger Belly. I love Tiger Belly. And the one he does with Andrew Santino.
Bad Friends.
Bad Friends.
Yeah. I listen to all these. That's crazy.
Yeah. I've got some terrible news. My phone stopped recording because I think I ran out of storage.
Yep. That's all good. We're close to an hour. We're close to an hour in. So
cool.
Have you got a little longer, or do you want to?
I've got a bit longer. Yeah. I mean, it's just I just can't record on my phone anymore.
Because of the phone. No, I get it. I was going to ask you a couple of questions because I actually did a little bit of homework for this. There's a couple of wonderful videos of you out there doing like little rig run-throughs and stuff, which are really cool. And as much as this podcast is going to be about the funny and interesting kind of stuff that goes on with tour, I've got a feeling there's going to be a lot of people listening who are like hobby players or bedroom players and are hopefully going to be really interested in the other side of stuff as well. So I was just listening to one of those rig run-throughs today, and it was like, you've got really explained really well the difference between like what you use in the studio to like what you actually use on stage, and like how you try and re-emulate those sounds. And I just think it's quite interesting because it's a totally different setup what you would take on tour and why you would use some of those things in comparison to what you would use in the studio and like what you have the luxury of in there, and like how you actually figure that stuff out and what you decide to use and take with you. Is there like
the reality of it is I'm cheap. No, it was like when you travel, like if you do, for us, like for years, we've been doing like the European festival runs every year. So what that means for us is during the summer we might play like minimum 30 or 40 festivals, like minimum during the summer. So like when you're doing that, and we try doing it lots and lots of different ways.
Yep.
And we found that flying out for a few days, coming home for a few days, flying out for a few days, coming home for a few days was the one that kind of worked the best. You know, we get a bit of the summer at home, but we're working all the time. And it's just
so
not
you just
practical.
don't want to check. You just don't want to check gear. Basically anymore.
Just don't want to check gear. So I've got like a little fly head that I use, a little Laney fly head, and like the other stuff I use. But I just take my bass, my effects, you know, and just do it that way because you're not going to get better than a loud amp in a studio, you know. You're not going to get, but in the context of a 25-minute set in, you know, somewhere in Slovakia, like I mean, and like, it's great fun, but no one's going to remember the bass tone wasn't as good as on the record, maybe, where I use like a giant valve head and all that stuff. I'm just kind of over. As long as, again, it's the vibe thing. I've figured out a way of like I feel good. Like when it sounds good to me on stage, I figured out a way of doing it now. So
I struggle really hard with this one because I think
it's harder for guitar players.
I get really attached to a sound, and I get really attached to a feel. For instance, I just bought, and I won't talk about the price of it, but I just bought a 1950 Gibson. It's sitting right here. It's a LG2. It's a 1955. It's my favorite acoustic guitar I've ever played. And I'm struggling now because I know this sounds crazy, but you're a vibe guy, so I'm going to go out on a limb here. I feel a magic when I play it, and when I sing and play it. I feel like there's actually something happening, and I'm afraid that if I get a replica just to bring on tour, that I'm going to lose that feeling. I know that's I literally know that's mentally ill. I understand this.
It's your Lucille. That's going to be sat next to you on a lot of flights, I think.
So do you think that's the way to go? If I feel it that strongly, just go with it and risk destroying a several $1,000 antique guitar?
I don't know, man. I mean, if that's
or just
that's
buy the
your
seat
call.
on the plane.
I know
time.
for me, I know for me. I like my really expensive stuff. Like I've got like a 70s, but I play Ibanez stuff now, which is awesome. Like it's just like it's built like tanks, you know. And,
Right.
And I'm not so worried. I mean, I've got some basses that I'm very attached to now, but I'm not like if something happened to them, it's just stuff kind of thing. But I feel like your guitar is not just stuff.
Right.
A guitar that old, so.
Have you ever had anything destroyed? Have you
I?
ever have you ever got to the other end and
loads, man.
Oh God!
Tour
Now I'm definitely not going to bring
anything
it
you
out.
miss? Any like
I did have like the first really fucking rad bass guitar that I ever had was a matte black, no, it wasn't matte black. It was like a black stained Warwick, and it was just like
oh wow,
indestructible like this thing. It was a Streamer LX. I don't know if you like the guy from Jamiroquai, like when I grew up, like I'd see him playing the Streamer LX, and I was just like, that's the coolest.
Yeah, it's
thing,
an awesome
you know?
looking bass.
And some techs in America left the trailer open.
oh man,
Driving along the freeway, it came out, and it was a total nightmare. So that I've had loads of stuff pinched,
shit.
stolen in America.
So you're basically telling me not to bring this guitar out.
Well, you got to do the BB King thing. It's got to be Lucille. It's got to sit next to you on a plane, I think.
Yeah, it's got to be my thing.
Yeah.
All right.
If it's going to be, I don't see like how
This is
else.
okay.
Because you've got to bring that. You can't check that in. You
This is how.
you can't check
This
that
is
in.
how. Right, but they forced you to now. Who knows? I mean, I deal with that every flight. I usually try to put my guitar in the overhead or whatever, and it's always a nightmare. Here's how sick I am. I am thinking about getting the exact same guitar, and keeping one in Europe and keeping one in the States, and doing it like that.
That's
I'm
not
totally
complete-
okay with that doing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Dario's like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
So it's a
Yeah.
great way to spend some money. Sure.
I mean, it's one way of doing it, but I mean, again,
I'm gonna think about this nonstop.
Old guitars like that, you have them and they're like played in, they're like, you got the vibe in it, and they're going to be different. They are going to be different instruments, so
Fuck.
yeah.
Fuck.
I was just kind of interested, Tom, because you like manipulate like a lot of different sounds, like through different records and stuff. Like you guys have gone like there's the electronic stuff, and then there's really heavy rock stuff. So I was just in terms of, especially with fly shows, have you got like a pedal board or a setup that just covers it all, and then and it's so you can fly it and that's it.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Amazing.
I just figured out like in the studio, I'll like use a ton of pedals.
Yeah.
Unless I'm trying to do something like really, really futuristic, and I've got like one of those fractal Axefest like the pedal.
Yeah.
Right. So I can so that's got all my effects in. Mm-hmm. So if I'm doing like synthy things or like anything that kind of a bit weirder, I sort of use that, and that just covers it. But in the studio, I'll have like I use a lot of those things that sort of combine pedals. Like a what would you call it? Like a switching pedal, where you can have like 3 or 4 kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah.
To like whereas I can just fly with this little Axe Effects unit and have that. I'm working with this company at the moment. I don't know if it's in here. I think it's still at my flat. This company in Germany called Mod Devices, and they make these units that are like, do you know? This is really nerdy stuff. What Max MSP is? It's a music program. Max MSP. It's like a coding.
No.
And it's like Radiohead on Kid A started like using Max MSP for like all the super weird stuff. And this pedal can take Max MSP plugins.
Wow.
So what it means, so what you can do with it is you can have things like it can have sound modifiers, sound generators. It takes MIDI. It's got 2 independent audio ins, 2 independent audio outs. So eventually I think what I'm probably going to end up having on stage is a switching pedal between my bass and my double bass, my electric double bass, and then have a keyboard, MIDI keyboard, like a little one, plugged into the unit, and this thing that converts audio to MIDI is just another little box. And just having that thing means I can play bass and keyboard at the same time, or just synth or double bass through it.
Jesus Christ.
So it's like that kind
really
of like
smart.
modern, just to do things is really cool, because you can kind of like map out your pedal boards inside of it. And it's also got stuff for like I'm a proper nerd. Like I'm into like modular synthesis stuff as well. So I can map like CV things like for synths in it as well, and it talks to them and all this. So it's kind of like you see that the application of it is for like, you see DJs using it, you see keyboard players using it, guitar players using it, So it's kind of an interesting tool. Like I'm going to start using that and not the Axe Effects. Like
I'm nodding yes, like I understand anything you're talking about.
I just like I very much got like
I know that thing.
I love like my favorite bass players. Robbie Shakespeare, Daryl Jennifer, James Jamerson. I'm into that. But then I love like Flying Lotus, and I love like things like that weird
the technical digital stuff. I think
so,
that's definitely a whole world.
Yes.
So, like what you're creating, does that give you more flexibility on stage, or like less? Do you have to like program it in a certain way, like for the set list that you're meant to be doing, or can you just access any sound at any time?
I would have to kind of figure out in a set what I'd be using, but then the box itself was kind of. I'll send you guys a picture of it afterwards if you want to see. It's really cool.
Yeah, please.
It's got like.
I'm gonna make Dario buy one.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really interesting. For like, I haven't had a lot of experience with the distortion stuff in it, but for like delays and reverbs and anything like kind of modulation wise is really great. It's really great. It's like just the
Amazing.
integration that you can play like old school MIDI into it, or like a USB MIDI keyboard, and it has synths inside of it that you can kind of put in your board and then put through effects and do things and talk to other effects, and it's real nerd crap. So
That's amazing. So by becoming less anal about your gear, you ended up becoming more anal about it.
yeah, that's story of my life.
There we go.
Story of my life.
That's incredible.
I think that's pretty amazing. I think it's an insight. This is probably one of the best conversations we've had. It's an insight that I don't think we've had yet, just from someone who's done it all. I mean, you're the second Dan we've talked to, and it's pretty fucking great. So,
Dans, all about the Dans.
It is. There's so
Yeah.
many of them in my life at the minute. Like, it's just never ending. But you guys are always pretty talented, so like it's okay, I suppose.
Damn it.
One last thing, like, so I think for most people who didn't know Nate before this podcast, right, when he was in Lionize, like, he hasn't always been like this well groomed. And being a man with such a magnificent beard, is there any like tour tips for like managing
Jesus
one's beard
Christ.
for Nate that can pick up on and like take forward with him?
I'll tell you, I get someone else. I'm so OCD. I get someone else to do it. I go to
really?
a barber and get them to cut my beard, because otherwise I'll be like, I fucked it up. How have I fucked it up? I'll just be in this recursive
wow.
loop. So I'm
No
really,
way.
like, so I think I've grown this at necessity, having to hide my face. So, and it's maintenance wise, it's pretty simple. Just get someone to cut it every few weeks.
just for the record, I didn't want to know any of that, and Dario cuts his own hair. So just let's put that out there.
Dario's hair's slightly cut. Oh right, okay, I can see it now.
Here we go. Well, it's been a lockdown. That's my lockdown skill, has been like managing.
That's
this
totally
because
your opinion, man. That's just totally your opinion.
All right.
This was amazing, and Dan, I do appreciate you playing on the record, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this bullshit. And
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, dude. I don't feel like I talked about anything really. So, like, if you want to chat again, if you want to chat again, I'm down.
Yeah, we might do some more specific stuff about the record, closer to the release of the record and stuff. But we'll, this was amazing, and I really hope too next year when stuff opens up that the three of us have the opportunity to be on stage together at some point. That would be really we'll figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah,
Amazing.
let's figure it out.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you very much for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
No worries.
Take
You
care.
guys take care.
Bye.
Peace,
See you
guys.
later.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Tour Talk. As always, you can find us across the socials at Tour Talk Pod. That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon too. Peace!